I mentioned earlier on that the team I work with goes into banks just like yours, week in and week out. We see a lot of different ways. You're all trying to do the same thing. And I sat down with our team in preparation of this program and said, what are the common themes when it comes to violations, common issues when we do our independent review of your SAFE Act? And I kind of put together our top 5 here. And so I'm going to run down that list. Okay, so I'm going to get your pen ready here. The number one thing we run into when it comes to the independent review of the SAFE Act is that the SAFE Act officer cannot be an MLO. Okay, time and time again, we see a financial institution that has designated a SAFE Act officer, okay, that is also an MLO. Now that works if you have 10 or fewer employees. But if you have more than 10 employees, and maybe you appointed them when you had 10 or fewer, and now you have more, well, then it doesn't work anymore. Okay, or you've just completely and blatantly forgot about this little stipulation that was part of the requirements. And so making sure that SAFE Act officer is not also an MLO, okay, unless it meets the exception. Number 2, monitoring the de minimis. Make sure you've got some quality control. If you've got people that act in an MLO capacity because they're traditionally below the 6 transactions, you've got to monitor for that. You can't just assume, because what happens if we've got a time frame where all of a sudden they get real busy and they're approaching to go over the 6. Remember, the consequence potentially is $30,000 per violation. Okay, that's not a small fine. That's a big fine. Third-party oversight. Make sure you account for that. If third parties are involved from a systems or softwares or a forms provider standpoint, make sure you're monitoring them. Same with brokers and things like that if they're part of your process. Timely updates, just in general. Make sure that you're following the time frames. Okay, the annual renewal requirement from November 1 to December 31. The 30-day requirement for certain information has to be up to date and accurate, like a name change or a branch move or a location change. Make sure you're making that somebody's accounting for that along the way. So timely updates. And then the last one I have is providing the unique identifier when triggered. So upon request, okay, prior to acting in MLO capacity, and then the initial written or electronic communication. Making sure that we are hitting on those all the time. We have procedures in place to make sure that we're compliant when it comes to those triggered timeframes for providing the information. So again, SAFE Act officer can't be an MLO. We have to monitor the de minimis line, that threshold. Okay, 5's okay. We can't do 6. 6 is too many. 6 is a violation.